Hi, this is another FreeSimpleGUI tip video. I make these videos mostly for my future self, but if you happen to find this video, welcome to the channel and hope you get something interesting out of it. Today we're talking about FreeSimpleGUI and keys. Keys are used in a couple ways. Anytime you have any kind of interaction with element on your display on your window, you usually have a key that identifies which element you're interacting with. As far as like buttons and things like that, you they create, when you press a button, they generate events, and then you know which button was pressed or which combo box was updated, or a few other things that create events that you need to be aware of, that you can make decisions of what to do on. Another way keys are valuable is that they are all the information that is stored, all the values that are stored in your window. That would be input boxes that have information, combo boxes, and buttons, whether buttons are checked or not, maybe, or something like that. And all those are values, and the keys are and the values go together, and they're stored in a dictionary type Python dictionary. So it's sort of like something like what you have here, where you got curly brackets, and then you got pairs, you got the key and the data, and then you got a key and a data and a key and a data. And it's just it's put into a dictionary. I'll be honest, I haven't used dictionaries too much in my Python. So anyhow, that's what they're used for. So we'll get to the code and see. I just got a simple program here with a simple layout with a little one text box. Text usually aren't too concerned about keys unless you're going to be changing the text somewhere in your program or something. Then it might want a key, but otherwise they don't need to be worried about keys. Input boxes would need keys, and of course buttons. This exit button has the key called exit, and but it's not got a value associated with it. It's just an event. But these two input boxes, they're going to have values, whether they're empty or not. They'll have values associated with them. So let's go ahead and run this. I guess I should say that I'm do the window.read, and then I'm just printing out the values, and we'll see what comes up. So I just got this simple thing I'll put in. Hello. Hello world. And then when we hit exit, we're going to trigger the event. And if you noticed, I didn't put any keys in these. So anything like an input box or something like that, Python says, oh, there's supposed to be a key. So they auto-generate keys. So it auto-generated a key of 0 and 1 for these two items. So you have these pairs. It's like I said, you got the curly brackets on the outside, and then you got pairs, key and data. So these can be identified as 0 and 1, but we really can't really act on that in our code because we don't know what the FreeSimpleGUI is going to assign them at the point. So really what we need to do is we need to, create our own key for it. And in general, the keys are text-based. And it could be something like this. This leading and trailing hyphen, or the suggested one from the FreeSimpleGUI documentation. They recommend using that as a, so that you know that you're talking about keys by putting those hyphens before and after. I generally don't use that nomenclature, but it works. So we could do that. That's one way of doing it. But if we go back to our keys thing here, it says keys can be strings, but they can also be ints, tuples, or even objects. So we saw the where it assigned an int to it, and tuples. So where would you think, where would you want to use a tuple for doing that type of thing? So what if you had a whole list of these input boxes and you wanted to iterate over them, like fill them with data from a Python list or something like that? You really can't iterate over just a name. You could have a list up there and iterate over it that way, but you would have to go through extra work. So what you could do is say, okay, I'm going to have a tuple in as the key. So let's KEY. Oh yeah, we need to need key in this as well. KEY equals, and key equals, but then we're going to put a tuple instead. So we're going to, the first item of the tuple is going to be readings. Say if you were reading a sensor and you wanted to get 10 readings and put them each in a separate box. And you could say comma. I actually have a variable up here called A, so we're going to say we're going to call it A. All right. So that's our readings. So, and then when this gets created, it's whatever the value happens to be of that A at a time. And that's not, you can't update that. Once this layout is created, that's going to become a constant, not a variable. So anyhow, so this should be readings 5 when we do it, and this should be in. So let's run the program again. And we'll just put goodbye this time. GOODBYE. Okay. And we're going to create our event. And then you can see that the first box, the key was IN, and the pair and the data was good. And the key to the second one is reading 5, and the data was by. Now, when you would want to, either read the value of that or write the value of that in a iterable way, through a for I and range or something like that, then you could use that, 0 to whatever to that second number in there as an iterable, and go through your whole list. So that's where you want to possibly use a tuple in there instead. Okay, that's the short one for today. More to come.